What's up everybody, D-Man back, welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla Minus One news roundup. That's right, in this video we will be continuing our chronological journey through the development and release of Godzilla Minus One and its subsequent sequel, or whatever Toho's next Godzilla film winds up being, by finishing off the events from November. This one is for all of those of you out there who are just like me, who are super into the behind the scenes of Godzilla Minus One and want to learn about the making of the movie on a really deep and technical level. So today we're going to be getting into the making of Godzilla Minus Color and how that came to be, as well as the actual filming of Godzilla Minus One and where it took place. Let's jump into it. Starting out with some art like always, this first piece comes to us from Moisty Man. This is the eye of Godzilla. It is so freaking cool, man. I love the way they've done like the eye beaming in that 4-panel quadrant thing. I also love the comic booky kind of dots going on. That is so sick. I was a big fan of this one. This next one, oh my gosh, I could just keep staring at it forever, comes to us from Mashi Hide, and this is their history of Godzilla artwork. It's got so many incredible details on it. Everything is so well drawn and so well done. I love that you literally see the progression of concept art to model to Godzilla down there at the bottom. All of these different Godzilla designs all over the place celebrating the history of Godzilla. You've got incredibly iconic characters like Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, Gigan up there. I love that they've done the cyborg head for Godzilla 84. I love Minus One down there in the side. It's just the whole thing came together so freaking well. It is so awesome. I'm a huge fan of this one. I really wanted to show this off. Please give this artist some love. This is some incredible work right here. To celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Godzilla Minus One's US premiere, Toho Kingdom reshared the photo of director Takashi Yamazaki at the premiere for the movie holding the Godzilla Minus One Ichiban show figure. Now, if you remember back in October, I did a video discussing Godzilla Minus One's big US release, and in it I brought up that there was like a real life continuity error going on with photos from the premiere of Godzilla Minus One in the US. At the LA premiere, Yamazaki was spotted with both the Ichiban show Godzilla Minus One as well as the X Plus Godzilla The Ride. I was making some fun of it in that video, but Mike's Monsters actually gave us some BTS on this and peeled back the curtain on what was going on. Basically explaining that Yamazaki showed up with the Godzilla The Ride figure. Mike's Monsters was the one who brought the Godzilla Minus One Ichiban show, set it down to take some photos of it. Some people saw it and started taking photos of it, which drew a crowd. Yamazaki then showed up grabbing the Ichiban show Godzilla to take some photos with it before returning it and then going back to his X Plus Godzilla. I thought that was kind of goofy that we got to hear the behind the scenes story on what was going on there, so I wanted to share that here. Raya Ten Kotetsu visited the Godzilla straw statue in Chizuken. This is the 10-meter straw Godzilla statue we discussed in a previous Godzilla Minus One news roundup, actually just a couple days ago. It is so freaking cool. It lights up at night. It's such an awesome thing. It is 10 meters, so over 30 feet, and you can actually see here, it's been there since November. It's getting a little weathered now. It's still there right now. It's about to end its time here in February, but you can actually see it's taken some damage from the weather over time as the colors are now starting to fade. In early November this year, Godzilla Minus One was re-released in theaters with 15 minutes of bonus footage that just got into the behind the scenes and making of the movie. When it was re-released, it was actually only for one weekend, starting on October 31st and ending around November 3rd, but in typical Godzilla Minus One fashion, the movie did so well that Toho extended the United States re-release for one full week at the start of November. Pretty awesome. Godzilla Minus One Minus Color then had a revival screening in Japan starting on November 15th and running through November 21st. In light of this, a giant article was written by Movie Walker Japan getting into the making of Godzilla Minus Color, peeling back the curtain on what went into making that and just truly how much work it was. However much work you think went into making Godzilla Minus Color, you're absolutely wrong, and it was so much bigger of a process than you can realize. It's so awesome. It's awesome if you're like super nerdy about films like I am. I think it's really neat. There's so much in here that it just blew my mind, so I really wanted to spotlight this, and again, original links to the article down below, go check it out. Starting out, to celebrate the 1-year anniversary and re-release of Godzilla Minus One Minus Color, it was revealed that Minus Color has an even higher rating in Japan than Godzilla Minus One and is considered the more prestigious of the two films. Movie Walker Press interviewed director Takashi Yamazaki, cinematographer Kazuo Shibasaki, and colorist Masahiro Ishiyama drama. Starting out, director Takashi Yamazaki reveals something that actually I was totally backwards on this. I thought that Minus Color was the first one, but Yamazaki reveals the idea to make Godzilla Minus One Minus Color actually came from a conversation with director of Shin Godzilla Hideaki Anno. While discussing the making of Shin Godzilla Orthochromatic, aka Shin Godzilla Ortho, Anno asked if there should be a Godzilla Minus One version of it as well, simply because it's set in the Showa period and he thought that was a good idea. This inspired Yamazaki. Anno actually felt that the original release of Godzilla Minus One should be black and white and the color version should be the special edition, but Yamazaki was far too deep into the making of Godzilla Minus One to go through with that fully. When sitting down and making Godzilla Minus One, Yamazaki's goal was to pay tribute to Godzilla 1954 without adding a bunch of scratches and noise to the film to make it look old. He still wanted it to feel authentic. He wanted to see what a black and white movie made in the modern age with HD cameras should look like. His goal was to capture the feel of black and white photography. Yamazaki reveals that they used a program called Academy Color Encoding System. It's a super powerful coloring system. One benefit of this system is that it has such a wide color range that things like fire, for instance, don't just turn into a white blob when desaturated into black and white. You still have the high ends and low ends that create texture throughout the fire itself. Shibasaki reveals that he was actually really hesitant about the idea. This is also like totally backwards in my mind, but his logic makes so much sense to me. He states that what he really liked about Shin Godzilla Orthochromatic is that it strips away the unnecessary colors of modern day cities and makes it a lot easier to concentrate on the drama. But with a movie like Godzilla Minus One, because it's set in the past and because the colors were picked very deliberately and controlled on set so that there weren't any distracting colors that needed to be eliminated, he didn't see any real value in it. However, once he thought about it, he started to realize on the other end, he loved the idea of enhancing the historical era the film is set in through black and white, and in end feels that the final result is actually an even stronger period piece and more realistic than the original movie because of how historical it feels. He says his biggest inspirations when making Godzilla Minus One Minus Color were Schindler's List and Roma. Shibasaki reveals that he added a special vignette at Yamazaki's request to create a darker periphery atmosphere and keep us focused on the center frame where the drama is. Ishiyama explains that he worked really hard with the original color grade of Godzilla Minus One to make people experience Godzilla as if he was true reality, but he felt that actually making the movie black and white seemed to double the impression that Godzilla was real because it had stronger ties to historical footage. That's exactly what I said in my Godzilla Minus One Minus Color review, so it's good to know that I got out of that movie exactly what they were going for. Yamazaki and Shibasaki showed him black and white photography as inspiration, and he was really moved by the contrast and the way that even if some parts of the frame were obscured in blackness and shadow, the visuals could still speak volumes with only the slightest bit of inspiration. Ishiyama then got to work on creating that very special vignette we talked about a second ago, and in doing so making every frame as moody as possible. This is also crazy, but rather than picking one master shot and matching all of the rest of the shots in a given scene to that one master shot's color, like you would do in a normal standard movie color grade, instead, he tried to treat almost every single frame, every single shot in Godzilla Minus One as its own master shot, ending with around 1,200 masters. This way, every single cut could be taken out of context and could look like a beautiful single image piece of artwork. His biggest inspirations were also Schindler's List and Roma, and also the movie Mank. In some ways, he wanted an even more classical style than any of those films, and as a result, he created a very subtle film grain with 4 pattern variants that Shibasaki actually got to choose from. Yamazaki did request this initially as he thought it would add to the period piece of the film without introducing deliberate scratches or certain types of film grain and noise that make it look obviously staged and like it's trying to achieve a retro feel. The goal was to make something really subconscious. He also added a near imperceptible projector-like shake to Godzilla Minus One Minus Color without Yamazaki knowing. That way it could feel truly like you're watching a film projected back in the day. He was very careful not to make it noticeable and hopes that it's a very subconscious sensation. Yamazaki reveals he had no idea. Shibasaki talks about how hard he worked to create texture in Godzilla Minus One through subtle contrasting colors and how that can't really easily be re-achieved through a desaturated version of the film. This required special attention in creating the black and white movie. Ishiyama agrees and reveals that they used a method similar to Shin Godzilla Orthochromatic by taking the RGB values, the red, green, and blue values, into separate channels and desaturating them one at a time in order to preserve the human skin skin and create texture and shading. In doing so, they would desaturate red less than green and blue. They also had to create an advanced algorithm to help them with the clothing, so that it still stood out against people's faces while drawing attention to the eyes. Ishiyama reveals that even in spite of all of this, he still would often have to mask around actors' eyes and change the values of them in order to get them just right so that you could still see them the way he wanted. This is basically like cutting a picture around the eyes and then changing that individual part of the picture in every single frame. They would have to amplify the red values in a way to bring immediate attention to the skins and faces, and then once they overdid that, they would subtly add contrast to make them less exaggerated and more moody. After seeing Shin Godzilla orthochromatic, they decided to move in a different direction from that film, especially in regards to the sky and the ocean. They dropped the colors of the ocean to make it appear closer to black. That way it could come across far scarier and more mysterious, as if Godzilla's lurking anywhere down below. Upon watching it for the first time, Yamazaki says it created a really strange feeling that he really liked, because it was like watching a movie that he didn't make. After spending so much time with the footage in color, he got so used to it that the black and white version created a brand new way for him to experience the movie for the first time since shooting it. That's kind of how I felt after watching Godzilla Minus One so many times, only to see the minus color version for the first time. He says that it was a really rare experience to see one of his own films with a really fresh set of eyes. In particular, he was surprised how frightening Godzilla's attack on Oda was, giving him a newfound sympathy for Shikishima in the start of the film. Yamazaki also reflects on how the lack of color brought out some of the sounds even more. He feels that it's because the brain is no longer using its resources to differentiate between so many different colors at once, instead allowing the ears to do heavier lifting. In doing so, he reveals that only minimal audio changes were made to Godzilla Minus One minus color, and for the most part, viewers reporting hearing different sound mixes in the film were experiencing the same thing he was, in that it was just that your ears were listening better. That's crazy to me because I do know some of the roars were switched, in particular Godzilla getting nuked at the beginning of the movie when he evolves into Godzilla. That roar was switched, and I could swear they added some Geiger counter sounds to the Ginza attack, but maybe they've always been there. Shibisaki says that after working so hard on the minus color version, he feels that they somehow accomplished even more than they did with the colored version. In particular, he loves the initial bombed out village scenes and the scenes where all four main characters are talking in the bar, as he feels those are really appropriate in black and white. Ishiyama reflects that by reducing the information the eyes have to take in, they can increase the detail to characters' performance, creating the impression of even stronger acting performances in the viewer's mind. He wanted the viewer to feel fear and intensity through minus color. He also felt that this was a fantastic way to bring a realistic and easy to understand sense of presence to a generation so far removed from black and white film. While I still prefer Godzilla Minus One in color, it is so wonderful to hear about the incredible detail that went into making the minus color version, and I do love that version of the movie so much. It just feels like the definitive 70th anniversary Godzilla movie. I love it. Movie Walker JP didn't stop there, as they reshared an older article that was actually written in November 2023, but I really want to get into it here. They then shared an in-depth breakdown on the filming of Godzilla Minus One. This is going to be kind of like a sort of episode of Godzilla Ground Zero, except that I didn't get to go there, so it doesn't count. Let's jump through the actual filming locations of Godzilla Minus One really fast, and if nothing else, this is just so that I can remember where these things are, so that next time I go to Japan, I can try and visit some of these things in real life. Movie Walk Press did a special on Godzilla Minus One's filming locations. The location tour operation held a collaboration in some of central Japan, the Ibaraki Prefecture, and Hamatsu City, and Okaya City to be specific, where they visited many of the filming locations from Godzilla Minus One around January of 2024. The location tour was won via lottery and had exclusive stickers and stamps you could collect in each area to unlock a coaster prize and a sticker entry and a lottery filled with tons of prizes including autographed stuff. They also celebrated how this is technically the first Reiwa era Godzilla film, which I guess so if you're not counting the MonsterVerse movies. Kind of like how actually the first Heisei Godzilla movie is Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, not Godzilla 84 or Biollante. Getting into it, the Ginza attack sequence was actually filmed in a sports field in the Ibaraki Prefecture. Filmed in Shimodate Sports Park in Chikuse City, Ibaraki Prefecture, enormous green screen walls were erected behind a few shop fronts and terraces that crowds would flee in front of. Because the movie was shot in 2022, there were still some mask mandates in Japan, and so the actors actually had to wear masks during rehearsals. The tour then went to the Grand Terrace Chikuse roadside station and took a 10-minute drive to the park where a special exhibition was being held. This exhibition was celebrating the film with a reproduction of the location of the set the destroyer Yukikaze was built on. The Tsukuba Naval Air Corps Memorial Museum in Kasama City, Ibaraki Prefecture was used for many scenes in Godzilla Minus One, including the meeting room scene where Operation Watsumi is discussed after the radiation buoys go off. Built in 1938, this building had a unique atmosphere that actually lent itself great to Yamazaki's films, so this isn't the only time it's used in one of his movies. Like I said, it is the location where the crew meets after Godzilla passes the radiation buoy. A Godzilla Minus One exhibition was held there featuring props and costumes from the film in late 2023 and early 2024. The Prefectural Office Observation Lobby in Ibaraki Prefecture sits nearby the museum. This was another rally point for the little tour. Standing 108 meters above the ground, it's about 2 times the size of Godzilla in Minus One, and it allowed the tour guests to see the Kanto Plain from Godzilla's perspective. The scene where Shikishima and Tachibana talk in the Shinden was actually filmed at the Kashima Naval Air Base ruins in Inashiki district in the Ibaraki Prefecture. It's actual war ruins that has been open to the public since 2022, but only on weekends. Next is the Miho Furia Plaza in the Ibaraki Prefecture. At the time of the tour, a vending machine was selling Godzilla Minus One and Ibaraki collaboration goods, so I don't actually think that was used in the film itself. The chase with Godzilla and the Shinseimaru was shot at Lake Hamana in Hamatsu City. Anything that wasn't shot there was shot in the Inshu Sea off the coast of the Tenduri River. This is the location for the finale with the humans at sea, and anything that wasn't shot there was shot on a stage. Mostly, Lake Hamana was used for scenes with the Shinseimaru gunner deck. The rally points for this part of the tour were the Expasa Lake Hamana on the Tomeni Expressway and the Hamamatsu City Tourist Information Center inside the JR Hamamatsu Station. Special events were held at the lake with a life-size Godzilla footprint on display, and on weekends and holidays, fishing boats and cruises could guide people to the filming locations from the film. The primary conference room that Operation Watsumi is first revealed at is actually the old Okaya City Hall in the Nagano Prefecture in Okaya City. This was used for a few things in the film. The first floor of the building was used for the scene where Shikishima asks for Tachibana's address at the Demilitarization Bureau. The second floor was used for the giant conference room where the briefing on Godzilla is held by Hota and Noda, and Noda first reveals Operation Watsumi. Yamazaki picked this location because it apparently looks exactly today how it did back when it was built. The rally point for this was the shopping mall at the Lake Walk Okaya in front of City Hall and the movie theater Okaya Scala 7, which is about 10 minutes away. Unfortunately, the tour was not allowed to go inside. It also, I think, appears as the potential location of the hospital Noriko is found in at the end of the movie, based on the glimpse out the window we get behind Shikishima, seemingly matching the courtyard from earlier. Whew, and that will be our big breakdown for this video. What do you guys think of this? I loved learning about the making of Godzilla Minus One Minus Color and how much work went into it, and I really loved finding out where all those Godzilla Minus One filming locations were in real life so that I don't have to do as much heavy lifting if I want to do a Godzilla Ground Zero all about the filming locations of Minus One. So that's pretty sick. As for now, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. It is through the support of the patrons on Patreon that I'm able to make videos like this for you. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Okay, this is a long one. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all next time for the next one. D-Man out.